connections, new railroads for the soul. Never lose direction, just let this current flow. We do this on repeat, going straight up to the
Please welcome to the stage this afternoon's panelists, Robert Wise, Global Commercial Director of Komatsu Mining, Danette Swank, Vice President of International Operations of Philippi Hagen Ba, Sean McClanahan, Chief Executive Officer of McClanahan Corporation, Denise C. Johnson, Group President of Caterpillar's Resource Industries at Caterpillar Incorporated, Gary Johansson, Vice President of Power Systems Engineering at Cummins Incorporated, Rod Duncan, President and Vice Chairman of J.H. Fletcher & Co. And finally, your session moderator, Rich Nolan, President and CEO of National Mining Association.
Well, thank you all for coming out today. I know there's a lot going on in the show, the greatest mining show in the world. I think we hit 44,000 registrants this morning, so we continue to tick up, and we're very excited and happy to be here to provide some additional programming with our guest panel today for our M&S members of our board, and wanted to give them a chance to talk about what they've been up to here at the show. So first, let me introduce our panelists today. Rod Duncan, President of J.H. Fletcher & Company. Gary Johansson, Vice President of Power Systems Engineering, Cummins Sale and Service. Of course, you all know Denise Johnson, Group President for Caterpillar Incorporated, who is the chair of the show. Sean McClanahan, President and CEO of McClanahan Corporation. And Danette Swank, President of Philippi Hagenbosch. And Bob Wise, Chief Operating Officer at Genmar Corporation. Please join me in a round of applause for their attendance here today. So let's get started. We've got about a little bit less than an hour to go for this event. The theme of MINExpo International 2024 is Innovation Lives Here. Your companies have certainly fulfilled that promise this year. This year's show is generating a lot of excitement amongst the attendees, eager to explore the latest products that you have to offer. And we'll do a first lightning round to get this going. Can you tell me what your company is showcasing this year? And please be brief.
This is our first opportunity to showcase our Fletcher and Cannon lines together since we made that purchase 2 years ago. So we have a Cannon small entry face drill, a scaler that Quarry Mine for Nutrien was kind enough to allow us to use, a large entry dual boom face drill for Mississippi Lime, and a CHDDR with dual mast that'll be used in South Africa.
Fantastic.
I was just thinking, what aren't we showcasing?
That's a big list.
We only have 2 minutes, so everything from our 95-liter, 4,400 horsepower haul truck engine to our hybrid solutions, our diesel battery electric hybrid solutions that we currently have running in the field today, our fuel cell systems, our telematics and diagnostic systems for uptime and availability for our customers, and I'll probably stop there, otherwise I'll go on all afternoon.
A great list. So, Denise?
Okay, yeah, so Caterpillar has a wide range of equipment, technology, services that we're demonstrating at our show this year. And I think the big focus certainly on the energy transition and electrification, as well as autonomy as a key theme. Our biggest, I think, showcase of the event this year, though, is our dynamic energy transfer solution, which can be leveraged with a traditional diesel electric powertrain, as well as with a full battery electric powertrain for charging as well as propulsion of the new equipment. So we're super excited to be here, and certainly a lot of buzz on the floor.
Thank you, Denise. Sean?
Yeah, so we're focused on showcasing two specific areas. One's crushing technology. We have a new generation of a sizer that we're touting at the show, as well as water management, so with thickeners and filter presses. And we have a patent pending filter cloth changing system that's going to really improve the dynamics of a building that's required, as well as the changing out of the filter cloths in a much safer environment.
Thank you, Sean. Danette?
Hello, Philippi Hagenbaugh this year is featuring our water tank and also our custom truck bodies, but within that, in the introduction of zero emission steel and how we can incorporate that in those products.
Thank you. Bob?
Genmar Corporation, this year we're rolling out some of our new products, especially some of our new metrics in the hard rock sector. On our Gen Chem division, we've expanded out there on our chemical stabilization and our also our roof support. On the civil side, we're showing a lot of our new tunneling stuff and the liner plates, new products there, which has really taken off and even replaced some other products in the mining and civil industry for tunneling.
Okay, great. Our next question deals with supply chain resiliency. Most consulting firms evaluating 2024 manufacturing trends have identified supply chain resiliency as a continued challenge, even as the global economy recovers from the pandemic. Denise, this one's to you. Can you tell us about Caterpillar's use of artificial intelligence to help forecast and minimize supply chain vulnerabilities?
Absolutely. So we are leveraging and very actively and standing up some solutions that really help us risk sense for where we have the biggest risk in our supply chain. Some of that uses technology that is AI-based, which can monitor things like the weather, where there's an event that's going to be taking place, cybersecurity issues, bankruptcy of potential suppliers, and in fact, in many cases, it also can help to also predict where we think the biggest risks are. And it's a global network of supply base and supply chain that we have to monitor. So there's various ways to do that. The other thing that we're really working to do is create a digital thread and then really look at where's the risk the highest for supply resiliency and focus on those areas first. So kind of a risk-based assessment of where those risks are. We are also doing a lot in dual sourcing to ensure that we have resiliency across the globe. So that's one of the methods that we're leveraging, but all of that leverages kind of a digital element to it with AI-based solution sets that help us really pinpoint and identify where the risks are the highest.
Truly a global effort.
Definitely.
Okay, this is to Gary. Gary, can you tell us a little bit more about the digital model that Cummins developed called Revenue at Risk to quickly anticipate and identify and adapt to potential supply chain disruptions?
Yeah, sure. And I think I would quickly say alongside revenue at risk really is delivery at risk because, well, first of all, we don't get paid unless we deliver, but it's really about delivering for our customers and understanding where those pinch points and the bottlenecks are. As Denise, as you said, some of it is looking at the financial health of our supply base and if there are suppliers that are in distress or in other areas that helps us understand risk. The other layer I think that's on top of all of this, including the post-pandemic world, is just the dramatic demand increase for our products and solutions. And so we're actually expanding our supply base and our manufacturing capacity in parallel with managing all of these risks. So the AI tools that we're developing are looking at what's coming upstream and how do we develop that, and also the traceability through the value chain all the way out to the end user, so that we understand exactly where the parts are flowing, where they're needed, and where the pinch points are.
And demand remains strong.
Exceptionally.
That's great. Yeah. Okay, Bob, for you, another way to address supply chain vulnerabilities is through acquisitions. Can you tell us more about the recent acquisition of Right Mix Cement Blending Facility and how that situates the company to better meet customer needs?
We, it was a strategic acquisition of a concrete product that we use very extensively in our Gen Chem division. Our Gen Chem division does a lot from chemical stabilization through backfills, and also a big thing is a 28 and the one-day seal. The Right facility is the concrete blending. Primarily, we were utilizing it for our J-Seal supply. So we opted to go ahead and do the acquisition, which ensures it strengthens our position in the market. It increases our potential for product offerings. I think it also gives us a much better, stabilization for customer support, because it's a division that when you need to do that project, there's usually no leadway in the time frame. So now we take total control of our supply chain through this acquisition.
So this is to the whole panel. What do you see as I was posing the biggest supply chain risk in the next 3 years, whether it's trade or geopolitical tensions, nationalism, and what tactics is your company using to navigate the challenges? Start with
One of the biggest ones right now that you look at, because there are so many on so many different fronts, frankly, the tax, capital gains tax increase is very hard for a company like us, which is a privately held firm, that we share our profits with our employees. And the news media likes to talk about the big businesses and how they're giving money to stockholders and bringing it into themselves. But we're an example of the majority of companies in this country that are giving that money back to their employees and putting it right back into their local economy.
Same question.
Yeah, I think back to the what we would call the capacity uplift and making sure our supply base is very robust. Also, I think looking strategically and saying where are the places where we should onshore? Where should we shorten our supply chains? Where can we reduce lead times? How can we reduce product complexity and proliferation so that we can minimize the stress on our supply base? I think also is a really important focal point for us. So in that sense, it comes down to a really multifunctional effort between engineering and supply chain, manufacturing, product management, all working together to make sure we've come up with really the lowest stress solution.
Keep it simple.
Yeah.
Denise?
Yeah, I would say our biggest issue around supply resiliency remains the U.S. supply base. If you look at the global supply base, U.S. manufacturing, especially core areas like forgings, castings, machining, are industries that have been underinvested in the United States for a number of decades. And as a result, if you think about resiliency, a lot of us are forced to go offshore to secure a lot of those commodities. And in many cases, we want to onshore that, but the capability of many of the U.S. manufacturing supply base is not there. So it's really getting that investment made and then making sure that we have suppliers that can withstand the cyclicality of many of our end markets and be robust to make it through those cycles. So that's where we're focusing a lot of our effort, is with the U.S. supply base and ensuring that they're leveraging automation and investment for the future to be robust.
Sean, you're probably pretty familiar with the same concerns.
Very similar types of issues for us in the U.S. supply chain side of it. And obviously there are countries that have an easy button, but some of those come with the geopolitical concerns for sure. Over the last, I'd say 5+ years, through the pandemic, we've tried to expand our footprint of where we're acquiring supplies from to try to lessen the geopolitical concerns. I don't see that going away. So for us, it's really finding safer places that we can go and find supplies for a global product that we're making. I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. And oh, by the way, there's a longshoreman strike coming October 1st for the entire East Coast. So that's not going to help anybody. There's just always issues that we've got to tackle.
Do you see a lot of those suppliers here this week?
Yeah, we've seen quite a few of them. Global suppliers as well, not just North America, but global for sure.
That's great. Danette?
I'd say one of our biggest challenges is tariffs, as we're seeing them, and then also just the supply chain diversification that we need to have to withstand the different changes that we're facing on a regular basis. And obviously the presidency will surely have a big impact on that as well, I feel.
U.S. tariffs?
Yes.
Bob?
You know, we looked at mitigating the risk of some of the products that we do bring in internationally, obviously on the water, and looking at what has the most volatility, what has the most opportunities to where it could create a mini crisis on an international supply chain. Post-COVID, we've looked at what can we do in the U.S. within our manufacturing facilities to actually produce a lot of those products. So we went through the challenges of labor post-epidemic, and it seems like that is starting to stabilize out. We've expanded out through some acquisitions within the U.S. to become more self-sufficient in those products they're at risk. The other thing that, anytime that you're bringing it in is also the volatility of the freight. Containers on the water, obviously, they went from $3,000 to $4,000 a container pre-COVID to during COVID, went up to in excess of $20,000 a container. And it threw it into a situation was utilizing whatever part of that product you were selling. It was very difficult to be competitive with that at that freight level. So it's a lot about trying to become as self-sufficient in the U.S. as possible.
That leads us to the next round of questions. Obviously, workforce has been a major theme this week. There's been a lot of discussion about that, how can we do better? The persistent shortages remain a major challenge for all of you, I'm sure. And the dynamic and fast-paced manufacturing environment created by today's advanced technologies require a very highly skilled workforce to adapt to that. I guess the question for all of you in a lightning round, how has your company adapted your recruiting strategies to deal with the increased competition for scarce talent? And what training and workforce development strategies are you using to keep pace with adoption of new technologies? And we'll start with Bob.
One of the big challenges that we have had there is finding people that actually want to do manufacturing work. So the way that we're addressing that and the way that we bring people into the workforce, trained manufacturing people are very, very, it's a premium. There's just not a lot of it out there. So what we've done in our recruiting is we've looked at identifying people that we feel have potential. We bring them into our workforce. We've established training and mentoring programs. On the maintenance side, we send people off-site to technical schools to learn that trade. And it's been very difficult, I think, through 2022 to 23. I think that we have started to kind of shore up that stability. We pay a lot of attention to where we're at in the labor market as far as compensation and benefits. 5 years ago, we didn't seem like we had a lot of competition. Now the wage rates compared to manufacturing have started to level out. People that were making what would have been minimum wage 5 years ago is now making manufacturing wages. So it seems there's almost like a hedging within the manufacturing companies to be able to stay ahead, be able to pay your people competitive wages. The benefits we offer a very strong benefit program, but we find in the current culture, that's not always the most important thing to some of the inexperienced people that we're bringing in. So we've got creative on schedules because people don't always want to work that traditional 5-day schedule. So we went to 4-10s. We've even went to people that, believe it or not, love to work what we call the weekend warrior schedule, where they work 3 days a week. So I would say the biggest thing, Rich, is we've had to become very creative in how we bring people in, and the biggest challenge is retention. So that's also part of it.
Go ahead.
So to Bob's point, creativity is huge. We're a small family-owned business, and we, because of that, I feel like we're pretty nimble and can allow a lot of flexibility and creativity from the benefit packages we offer to different things that are important to people. I feel how that has shifted. Just valuing the employees that we have, and as new people come, really ingrain them in our culture. We're very family-oriented, family-based. One of the other things that we're doing is continuing to engage with our local EDC Peoria, Illinois is huge in manufacturing, and so we've got a rich culture there anyways of manufacturing, but just to attract them to Philippi, we do a lot of different job fairs, a lot of career speaking engagements at the local colleges and at the schools. Even in the 8th grade level, we're getting to students early there as well. So it's fun to see that process, and they're energetic about being able to make things. We design and manufacture custom off-highway haul trucks, haul equipment, and over again from the employees that we have, I hear how much they love not having every day be the same, how much they love seeing something that they can build and be proud of. So the other thing is we're looking at how we can diversify with fabricators throughout the country and the world to get our products most efficiently to where they need to be. So we're kind of hitting it from a few different angles.
Sounds great. Sean?
Well, you said a lot of the same things that we're going through, and I'm sure commonality up here is trying to find unique and creative ways to recruit people. And the old days of just posting a job and taking resumes doesn't exist anymore. You have to go out and find people. And to Bob's point, we've tried to do an effort where we hire good quality people. If they may not have the talent, we can teach them that. What we can't teach somebody is to show up every day, want to be a team player, want to work with others. So that's a skill that's hard to find. And when you find that person, you want to invest in them. I mean, we're also a family-owned company, and we tailor our benefits to our employees and their families. We just recently instituted a paid maternity and paternity program. It's pretty unique for our size of company, and we're really proud of that. Again, as a family-owned company, it's an important aspect. We're also one of those companies that still allows people to work from home. There's a big push anymore to have people come back to an office. I don't think that's going to work for us. We've proven through COVID that we can make it work for the employee and the company in certain positions. It's not an across-the-board aspect. It certainly has to work for both sides in order for it to be productive. But we're creative in what we're doing and how we're trying to recruit people as well as maintain people in the workforce. There's nothing easy anymore, so you've got to be creative.
Retention is a big part of this.
It definitely is, and I would say from a creativity perspective, a lot on social media, trying to bring people in and make I think a connection to the product, which was mentioned earlier. We've also gone to high schools, and we actually have an after-school like internship program where we're actually recruiting high school students to come in, and after they're finished with school for the day, a couple of hours that they're working in the factory. That kind of gets them used to the idea of being in a manufacturing environment, and then shows them what it could be like once they graduate. And we've had good success with that. We've also worked a lot with the military, and specifically the National Association of Manufacturers Heroes Make program, where they're taking military folks that are no longer wanting to serve in the military or are looking for careers. Many of them, manufacturing is a perfect environment for them. So we've had good success with that as well. In every case, I think one of the things that we recognize is the need to retain, and retention being a big issue, but recognizing that it's not just about benefits, it's also about the community and the people that you work with. So many of the other ways that we recruit are with referrals of existing employees that are referring people that they know, and having someone you know at work that can be a friend or can help you acclimate can also help you retain. So that's been pretty successful, and then we give them a reward for bringing a new constituent on. So that's been pretty successful as well.
Referral bonus.
That's right.
Nice. Gary?
Yeah, I think I'll list two examples. We have a program called Technical Education for Communities, or TECH, and we've stood up these initiatives all around the world to help bring people who maybe had no way to gain vocational or technical experience to actually enter the workforce, whether it's in manufacturing or as let's say a field service technician or something like that. So in some places it's very economically depressed communities and those kind of things where there isn't much of an infrastructure. So we've put a lot of that in place around the world and in the United States. Working closely with community colleges and vocational schools and that kind of thing to really create interest and draw people to the industry. And then the other example I just mentioned is for our and I'll speak about engineering and our technicians in our labs right now, is helping them see that they can be a part of this technology transition and moving from, let's say, the old, if I may, what they would say the core technologies of diesel engines and generator sets, for example, to, how do I make that jump to fuel cells or to microgrids and other things like that.
Generation.
So we're doing a lot of work there to help people see the future there. And it's great when you have some examples of people that have successfully made that transition, because they're the most credible advocates for the programs like that.
As many of us have already said, the AAA always comes out first: attitude, aptitude, and attendance. So one of the most creative things that we've come up with, because we've done a lot of the things that you've already mentioned, is that we have worked with community and technical colleges with programs in our tri-state area. We're right where West Virginia, Ohio, and Kentucky come together, so we have the advantage of being able to go into all three. And we've been able to bring in some of these students that are getting ready to graduate. And as you said before, bring them in on an internship, maybe a half day, maybe up to 20 hours a week, and that might go on for a semester. At the end of that time, or when they graduate, they know what we're about, we know what they're about, and we're drawing people in that way. The other thing is, being a family company, we also do the same things of trying to find ways to bring the family in and find those ties to keep them with the company. One of those that we provide is up to 8 semesters of tuition at Marshall University rates. And they can go to any college they want. They can go to any technical program that they want. So it creates situations where you need somebody to work that overtime to get something done. And I had an employee that we were putting 2 of his sons through engineering school. And I said, Randy, can you guys stay, work this week, get this machine out? He said, you just paid my son's tuition. Of course, I'll be here. So you build that trust, you build that unity within the organization.
That's great. That's great. Turning back to technology and innovation, the theme of MINExpo is Innovation Lives Here. So let's talk a little bit about what's been happening in that space. The use of new innovation technologies has been rapidly expanding with many manufacturing companies worldwide to create safer workplaces and improve productivity. Among the most cutting edge are automation and the use of AI. A recent Forbes survey on the state of manufacturing indicated that 88% of respondents had implemented an AI strategy in manufacturing and supply chain operations over the past year. Similar percentage reported that, quote, implementing AI into manufacturing is vital to my company's success. So Bob, if we could start with you, could you provide us perhaps one example of innovation, whether it's AI-based or not, that you've adopted over the past year, and describe the results and the benefits from that?
One thing that, over actually the last 3 years, we've really shifted to automation. And it kind of ties into the ability to recruit. And it also gives a different perception, I think, of your operation of your company. So we now are going into automated equipment. We've put 12 different automation lines in the last 3 years. Right now we have another significant one that, part of our offerings, also involves the quality. The quality is key. One bad product is, one too many. So in the new automation, we're also building in the intelligence to do the quality checks in line. And that way, as it comes out, not only does it, reduce that need for X amount of stops of the production for the automation checks, you still will do them, but at a very low frequency. So it's given us the ability to, I think, put a different perception on what our plants look like if you walk into one of our manufacturing plants. And it also affects recruiting. And it also affects the output of the plant. So it's been very successful.
Thanks, Bob. Danette?
So as far as AI at Philippi goes, we started with utilizing that in our sales and marketing area, and that has just really helped all of our sales associates be a lot more efficient with their customers. And as a benefit, byproduct of that, the customers are getting better customer service, whether it's touch points, checking on different machinery. So that's been one area that we've used AI. And then before the end of the year, we're looking to incorporate that in our engineering area with our very large files of historical drawings and information. So an army of librarians to help with the engineers.
Thank you. Sean?
For us, the innovation probably on the factory floor side of things is with the equipment that we're installing. As much modern equipment as we can, CNC machinery. The schools the trade schools that are coming out are producing candidates that have that technology immediately. They can hit the ground running. On the AI side of things, we haven't employed that yet in the manufacturing environment, but we tend to use it more on our equipment, or we're putting in sensors on our equipment to analyze the data that's coming off of it. And while the AI for us it's not for us necessarily, it's for our customers. So we're analyzing that data, and then we're giving them back information on how their equipment is operating in the critical areas so that they can analyze the downtime that might be coming or parts that need to be replaced to keep their operation running. So we'll probably look, and we've dabbled more into AI as it blends into our operation long term.
You really got to go slow and find out where it fits, but you got to go.
Absolutely.
Denise?
Yeah, I won't repeat what they also indicated, but I would say the most interesting, I think, are in the area of quality vision systems, where the vision systems today can really sense if you're actually following standard work. You know, and in the past, you kind of, if you look at a lot of defects that flow through a manufacturing process, it's usually, you know, a human not following the right process and procedure. And so with AI and sense technology and cameras, you know, you can really identify where a defect is found, and you can actually check it visually against what it should be. And so those kind of things really make a big difference in the entire manufacturing process, especially in areas where you have a layered build and things get covered up over time, and you really, at the end of line, can't verify that the quality. So it's been a game changer for us in a lot of our manufacturing facilities.
Really helps the facilities drill down.
Absolutely.
So many layers.
Yeah, I'd say in the AI space, one of the things that we really are, as you said, starting, but you have to start. We're trying to start in multiple places along our value stream. But I think the first place we're trying to start is to reduce tedium, whether it's tedium for the engineer who has to document their work.
Human condition.
Yeah, but also in the manufacturing operations in the plants, and how do you just make the work easier for everybody that's involved so that they can focus on quality, they can focus on being safe. So, you know, using AI to help us with making sure that the person that's at the assembly line at that station, when they badge in, they've had the training that's pertinent to that particular station. They understand the skills that are needed. They've been prepared for it. A lot of motion study work and a lot of ergonomics work is, you know, work at height. You know, a lot of the equipment we see here this week is very big, right? And it presents a number of special challenges. So how do you actually just make it really easy for humans to be around this big iron? And we can use AI in a lot of places like that.
Have you seen a lot of AI vendors at the show this week? People coming to you with an idea?
Yeah, and I think also within a lot of booths where maybe it's not what they're selling, but it's how they're doing better at what they're selling, right? Yeah. Us included.
Cool. Rod?
We're actually pushing some AI out into the field now through our FES and R&D projects. We are using a LiDAR system to map the face for large face drills to be able to, they'll read the entire face, they'll see where everything is, and then they will overlay the bolt pattern on. And then it will then manipulate the booms to find the most optimum position for them to be in to drill. Now with the issues in the industry that we have now with being able to find people to work in the underground industry. We don't have that experienced operator out there everywhere that's been working for 20, 25 years. So this allows to bring those less experienced people in and make them as productive as possible in a shorter period of time.
Very good. Turning to safety, which remains a top concern both for your employees and for your customers in the mining industry. Rod, I guess this is to you. So many of your products, from pioneering roof bolters to internal dust control systems, were created to enhance worker safety. Are you using Fletcher's Engineered Solutions division to create new safety enhancements for your mining company partners?
We're using it for not only our mining, but also to expand outside of the mining industry into the steel industry and some other places. I think I gave you probably one of the best examples that we have right now going on with that LiDAR system. But we continue to try to push moving the operator farther away from the actual drill steel, the actual drilling, being able to move them into an air-conditioned, HEPA-filtered cab instead of being hit with that water all day as they're drilling and having to manually lift and put drill steels in and out and bolts. If you look at our CHDDR we have on the stand now, this was a perfect example of a customer, and through this development in South Africa, they have a lot of female operators, and they were getting tired towards the end of their shift. And so with this arrangement, they're able to leave the drill steel in place and index the mast, and all they have to do is pick up the bolt and do the resin. They're reducing their interaction and lifting by 2/3. Wow. And so this is the type of thing that we're able to do, is to bring better ergonomics and better safety to the industry.
That's great. Gary, you mentioned ergonomics as well in your work. Is there, what safety features that you've been developing in your systems would you highlight here today for the group?
Yeah, if we focus on the field service, and by the way, I know plenty of men who are getting tired at the end of their shifts, yes, too. And one of the things we know is that that can cause people.
Good pickup, by the way.
It can cause people to lose focus and sometimes skip steps and be unsafe. So one of the things we're using AI for, and also really just kind of closing the loop in the service of their diagnostic process to understand what's needed on the piece of equipment or on one of our engines, is to actually make sure they've gone through and de-energized the systems that needed that, to make sure they have the right PPE, to make sure they've been trained. So all of those things can be done in a closed loop way where our tools are assisting the actual technician that's at the job site at that moment, helping make sure they walk through the process in the right steps. And you can't go past a step if something critical hasn't been accomplished yet. And so that's where I think closing the loop on some of these things, as opposed to just pushing out pieces of paper with instructions, doesn't get the job done.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I know Caterpillar, you guys have LiDAR on just about everything now. Is there anything you want to highlight that's new on the floor in the safety arena?
Yeah, no, I think it's leveraging layers of technology and recognizing that any one technology can fail, and so you have to have layered conditions that will help to make sure that if something does fail, that you have another system that can support it. Certainly, I think the biggest change in really the technology around safety, especially with machines, is trying to make it more localized. And so although LiDAR is leveraged, cameras are leveraged, how do you lower the cost of those sensors and then make some of the new technology that's coming out, allow it to work more on a local level versus having to pull it all into an ecosystem where you have to process it on a server offline. So there's a lot of kind of that activity, in addition to, of course, a lot of the technologies around just pure making it easier to do a task that anyone can do and doesn't have to be trained to the extent that people had to in the past. So how do you make that very easy?
Right, intuitive. Yeah.
Exactly, and intuitive. So those interfaces become super important.
And when you say local, you're tying the technology to, say, the cab
That's
where
correct.
right to the driver as
That's
opposed
right.
to back to the computer,
Exactly,
then returning. John?
exactly.
Any thoughts on safety enhancements?
Yeah, so here at the show, I mentioned earlier that we're debuting a next generation of a sizer. We've been making crushing equipment for over 100 years. Sizers we've been making for 2 decades plus. But this new generation of sizer is really focused around the safety of the operator and the safety at the mine site. We put a lot of focus on our own safety internally when we build equipment, but this generation of sizer is really focused outward towards the customer and how they use the equipment. So we've got things like replaceable items on it that are smaller in nature. They don't require heavy lifting equipment. They're interchangeable parts that are on it. We've got use of hydraulic cylinders for gap adjustments instead of manual shims. We're really trying to take the focus away from the more manual process and make it more intuitive and easier for the operation so that they minimize their downtime, and that goes along with the monitoring packages for things like bearing temperatures and shafts, so that, again, they're minimizing their downtime. They plan out their maintenance efforts on a program that's safe for them in operation and ultimately leads to more uptime.
So that mineral sizer's on the show floor, or
Well,
a model of it?
We have a model of it because it's too big for us to bring in here. But for sure, we have a model of it. It's a working model, and the features that are there and how we can explain them. Actually, the model comes apart, so we can show how the maintenance can be done on it for the use in site. And another nice feature about sizers, they can be rolled out from underneath chute work, so that the maintenance can be done on a proper platform as opposed to in situ where you're trying to work around items. So there's a lot of effort that went into it, probably 5+ years of design to bring this to the market.
Thank you. Danette, can you tell us more about how the new AutoGate tailgates design in your trucks boost load capacity and enhance safety while driving?
Sure. So as far as our AutoGate tailgate, I know you asked about the new AutoGate tailgate. So we invented the tailgate in 1969, but every tailgate that we do is engineered to order. So everyone is a little bit new. One of the things that our tailgate offers is a proper distribution of load, which from a safety standpoint helps reduce the tire wear, tire punctures, and also helps reduce the whole body vibration of the driver and the truck. So from a safety standpoint, all of those are good things.
Awesome. Bob, safety?
You know, there's a couple things that we've really focused on, I guess, on some of the new technology is on the hard rock sector, the way that they traditionally used the jumbos, the way they grouted their roof control products. We developed the J-Lock P to where now it's actually integrated right onto the drilling machine. So where it takes the exposure of the operator away, not only does it take away the exposure, it really gives you a more controlled way to grout that product into place, whether it be like an all-thread bar, what it may be, and it also increases their efficiency where they didn't have to come back and redo. Like, in a lot of the hard rock sectors, they'll put in a temporary to get them through, and they'll come back and put in more of their permanent. So the development of our J-Lock P system really eliminated a lot of that. I think provided a lot of additional safety in the place. On the coal side, one thing that we've worked on, obviously, through our Xcale division is we've really looked at some of the finite design of bits, even though it may seem that the carbide bits on the mining machines have been around forever. But there are ways to really decrease the exposure of respirable dust there. The other thing we're doing to go with it, it's in process right now, is a way of continuously monitoring the quality of the air coming back out of the ventilation system. Like, for example, coming out the vent tubes with the auxiliary fans, you'll be continuously monitoring how much silica is in that, which helps from an engineered part of dust control, how you position your operators, keeping the remote and the overall design, and maintaining just a long-term, as much as safety, let's call it a significant health improvement to the miners.
And silica has become a big issue, certainly with this administration rolling out its
Yes.
silica rule, which will impact a lot of your customers. I know you're probably doing that, not as a response to that rule, but as it's the right thing to do. And
So we're getting a lot of interest on that, and it's been something that I think that the focus on that it's continually increased in the last 10 years. And I think that now it's at a point where I think properly engineered, it'll allow our internal customers, our domestic customers, to be more competitive, I think, in the energy sector.
Thank you. On to the next question for the panel. There's been lots of discussion in the administration and Congress about the importance of U.S. manufacturing. Made in America, I always say made in America should be mined in America, but that's my job. But reducing reliance on China through onshoring and friendshoring and investments in new factories. I guess the question is, what is the top thing the U.S. government policymakers could be doing right now to improve the business climate right now for the manufacturing industry in your company? And we'll start with Danette.
I would say my top would be to fix the R&D tax credit.
Okay.
Roll it back to where it was before 2022. I feel like that affects all of the companies that are on this panel. It affected us greatly as far as how that was calculated and how that was handled.
Is that unanimous? Sign of hands on the R&D tax credit? All right. Sean, you want to pick one more?
Yeah, so I think for us, it's energy. There is no greater way for us, all that we're trying to deal with inflation, to lower costs than energy prices. And that would be inclusive of fuel. If there's any way that we're all going to lower prices, it's going to be through energy, and we've got to have more of it. Whether that's the use of all types of energy or specific types, we've got to have more to lower the overall cost. Nobody's going to come lower their prices because we're cutting wages. Wages aren't going down, so there are certain costs that are just going to continue on. But certainly energy is one of those costs that can be controlled and brought down. We saw that for several years back, and we were able to sustain lower prices. Energy prices at this moment are going up, and I don't see it going the other way at the moment. But certainly for us, and we operate a foundry. We have very high demand for electricity and usage, and it's difficult in this environment as a North America company in manufacturing, with as expensive as energy is at the moment, to continue to manufacture products cost effectively. So that's a little bit of the, going overseas to try to find reduced expenses in certain parts and pieces that we need to bring in. But for us, it's all about energy.
So R&D and energy. Denise?
Yeah, I would say, the U.S. government has done a lot to encourage investment in key technologies like microprocessors and battery production in the U.S., which is great. But the foundation that I talked about earlier, where the U.S. is no longer as competitive or as progressive in the technology, like forgings, castings, some of the core, what I would call foundational manufacturing technologies that need reinvestment in order for the U.S. to stay competitive. We need the government's help to facilitate additional investment in those key categories, which, is what really the U.S. manufacturing basis has been built upon up until now, and has been eroded and not reinvested in. So we need more investment and more support from the government for that investment.
So rekindling industrial policy for the manufacturing
Absolutely.
base in this country.
That's correct.
Great.
Yeah, to pick up on something that hasn't been said yet, maybe I would also add education.
Okay.
And we see in a lot of places where we operate in the U.S. and around the world, but very much in the U.S., a lot of education disparity between, let's say, the well-to-do high school districts, if you will, and the ones that aren't so well-to-do. And it often leads to outcomes for our potential employee base and the skills that we need, not really having a wide range of skills available wherever and whenever we need those. And we think, strengthening communities by strengthening education would be something that would really help all of us.
Very good. One more?
I would probably obviously echo all of those things, but we need to, and this might be a little bit sketchy here that some people may think, but we need to incentivize the workforce to want to work, to want to come and get a job, not be incentivized to sit at home and rely on the government, to take pride in creating something and manufacturing something that helps others and provides for others.
Very good. I think pricing and energy was mentioned. We could do another round talking about not necessarily inflation, but what you're seeing at the cost of your inputs for manufacturing and what that looks like and how that's affecting, obviously, your bottom line. But we'll start with Bob.
Well, I think that, the big thing is we use a lot of steel. So, the steel market is, I think it's stabilized, but it's still at the same time, it can be volatile. We went through a situation 3 years ago where, hot rolled coil with the surcharges and everything, we went from $700 a ton to almost $2,000 a ton. So some of that stability out there is some of the volatility. To talk about the last question just real briefly, I think a big thing is incentivizing education, training for employee development, and no doubt, I think also IRAs on new equipment which provides more automation. I mean, I've seen that we've diversified out into solar products, and right now the IRA on solar products are unbelievable. I mean, virtually it's almost paying as much as the steel cost. So, but that seems the extreme, but I think a little more going out into supporting what will grow manufacturing in this company, because it is a challenge.
Thanks, Bob. Danette, on pricing of inputs?
I think that the challenge is just all of the costs around, from a business standpoint, are just kind of coming in. Whether it's we're just seeing a lot, whether it's increase in the steel prices. You mentioned our biggest cost is steel. So I think we're having some challenges there as far as, like Sean said, with the energy. And then other inputs that I'm experiencing or that I see a lot just are the increase in all of the benefits and the different things, from inflation of whether it's insurances and the increased wages and the competitiveness we have. So all of it seems to be going up.
Sean, you mentioned energy, other things?
Yeah, I mean, we certainly have experienced the rapid rise during COVID with inflation. It has come down some, but it's unrelenting. It's just, there's no let up in it at the moment. It is at a lower rate, yes, but I come back to energy. Until that really is fixed, I don't see the costs being able to come down, because everything is revolving around energy and transportation, shipments of products, either to us or to our customers, and all the things that we enjoy as a civilized society of the products that we buy. And so it's for us, no matter which country we go to source products, there's inflation, it's unrelenting, and we just don't see it going away anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. I mean, steel is our number one as well. And I would say in the US, we pay higher prices for steel than we do in Europe, which actually is shocking to me. It's about 20% cheaper for our steel in Europe than it is in the US. And then if you go to China, it's 20% even lower than that. So you're talking a 40% delta between steel sourced from the US versus China. And so, with tariffs and things, if you're bringing things in, that can be somewhat equalized. But if you're a net exporter and you're trying to build in the US, that's a huge, huge headwind when you're competing in a global market. So that's number one, I would say. Labor costs are high. We're working on automation to help mitigate that, combined with benefits and such. But, as you see inflation continue, and you have a lot of pressure from unions, that technically, that becomes a big issue for us as well. And it's a headwind that we have to offset. So, but I would say certainly logistics is probably the third, especially as, global, trade has changed with geopolitical issues. We've had a lot of increase of input from logistics, and and shipping as well as we go globally. So all of those areas are areas that continue to put pressure on us, and certainly we do everything we can to mitigate with buying power. But if you're in a unique position where you're going to various jurisdictions, your best bet is to diversify where you produce and be able to produce locally for local. And it's not maybe a global approach anymore. It's more of a local. Let's local for local is really where the trend is moving to try to mitigate those impacts.
That's a big change.
It is a big change.
Thank you. Gary, thoughts on
Yeah, I
this?
think, as the other panelists have already talked, the costs have gone up in a lot of different dimensions across the whole business. And there's some of that we can control and some of it we can't. And so we face this pressure from our shareholders to collect the right margins. We face the rightful pressure from our customers who are saying, hey, you're passing all these costs to us. So I think the one thing that we can control is to keep working on driving efficiencies in our own house. And so how do we do that? We've talked about automation. We've talked about making things simpler, shortening our supply chain. So what are the things that we actually can control that in the face of some of the things that we can't? And so that's been a big part of our focus as well.
Very good. So, Rod?
We're running into exactly the same problem, steel. But we really are de-incentivized right now from onshoring and producing here. We, for the first time, have had to move some of our operations with Canon. We're actually building that equipment in Mexico now, where it's going to be used. And as you were saying, you build it local to where it's going to be manufactured. We're seeing more manufacturing in South Africa because of that. So that and the costs, I don't think the Europe is seeing quite the amount of inflation that we have in the U.S. So that's very hard for our customers to handle when you say, hey, there's going to be a large price increase when they're not seeing it in their own backyard.
Right. Right. Okay, we've got about 4 minutes left, so we'll finish off with this question and start with Bob. There's a lot of companies out there that are trying to lower and reduce their carbon footprint, and they're talking to their suppliers about how they can, at least measure, or what technologies do you have that can help us reduce our profile and save money at the same time? Are there any offerings that you guys have rolled out?
I mean, we actually, we have a sustainability manager in our staff now. And, the big thing looking at the carbon footprint comes clear down to, for us, one of the largest things is how you're acquiring the steel. Are you getting the steel from a mini mill, which is, utilizing scrap, or versus going to a blast furnace? So that, with the amount of steel that we use, that's probably one of the largest things out there that we look at, and yeah, we actually, to some of our customers now, are asking for that sustainability report that shows what are we putting into the carbon footprint through our transportation, our freight, our use of raw material, and even down to components.
The questions are coming across the board. Danette?
So we haven't heard much of this directly from our customers yet, but we're wanting to get ahead of that curve. So that's why I had mentioned earlier that we're introducing the zero emission steel format to build some of our products with,
Right.
as customers are looking for that as an option to add to their sustainability and
Thank
footprint.
you. Sean?
Yeah, to Bob's point, we've seen a large increase over the last 5+ years for companies requiring us to have some sort of a sustainability program. We too have brought somebody on board to help us with that. And it goes beyond just the carbon side of it. There's also, making sure there's slave laborers and all kinds of other criteria are being met as we produce products. A lot of our focus, maybe beyond that, is outward focus to our customers and helping them achieve sustainability issues that they've got themselves. And water management being a really big one across the world. tailings ponds and minimizing those and even eliminating them from permitting issues. So with our thickeners and filter presses, we're able to recycle billions of gallons of water that would have otherwise been lost. So it helps them in their efforts, sustainability as well.
Thank you.
I would say at Caterpillar, we're definitely focused on, reducing greenhouse gas emissions from our products and have a very heavy pull. And some of our largest products, of course, being pulled for zero emissions. So developing solutions that are completely exhaust emissions free, primarily around batteries, but some also in the fuel cell area to get there and do so under a fairly tight timeline. I mean, many of the miners are looking for the technologies to be available by the late 2020s, so 2027, 2028 timeframe, which is a very different development cycle than what we're used to for such a massive change in technology. So they're pushing very hard. So we are investing a considerable amount of our R&D for the future in electrification to meet those targets.
Yeah, I would say for us, a couple key points. At Cummins is an energy to power solutions provider selling engines and power generation equipment. The vast majority of our greenhouse gas emissions footprint is after we've sold the product and it's in use with the customer who's using fuel to run their operations. So that's a really significant part. Having said that, we do issue a sustainability report every year that delineates all the work that we're doing in-house in our supply base. We talked about, our labor force and even into our supply base. So if you want a really comprehensive view, you can see that. But back to the emissions piece of products in use, while we're seeing this pull, it's very accelerated, as you said, Denise. The other thing that's really unique in our industry is that there aren't really regulations per se driving it, like maybe in the on-highway
It's customer
space. So it's the ESG goals of the end user customers and the social license to operate and that kind of thing. So, and I think the other key point is that all of our customers have a different equation in terms of the price and availability of energy that they have to work with. So we have to meet customers where they are with the right solutions that can take the energy that they have that's most cost effective, convert it most efficiently to the power solutions that they need. And what we're seeing is in that race to zero emissions, there's going to be a path all along the way that's going to be with a whole big mix of solutions based on the price and availability of energy.
Very good. Rod, clean up.
And so with our customers, a large percentage of our equipment for our end users is electric already, so we have no emissions on that front. But we also have a lot of customers that do use diesels. We have been asked to do designs that are diesel tram into the position and then electric drill. So you're only emitting while you're moving from one heading to another. You're electric otherwise. We do have battery options, but frankly, in the type of equipment we build, there's not been a lot of interest in it at this point. So we haven't had that push.
Very good. Well, thank you. I want to thank all the panelists today. We're at time, but clearly innovation lives here at MINExpo International, and especially on this very stage. So thank you again for joining us, and appreciate all the panelists' participation today.
Watching the horizon fading like a desert in the dark. Took me till now to even know